Just as the Prime Minister says...
broadband backwater.
I'm no Bill Gates here, and I don't claim to be any kind of a tech head. And yes, we're not guaranteeing...
You know what peak speed is?
Again, if you're going to get me into a technical argument, I'm going to lose it, Kerry, because I'm not a tech head. 12 and up, and we think in...
But you're guaranteeing 12.
That's right.
Are you sure about the... Can you really give that guarantee when you don't seem to know what peak speed is? I'll tell you what it is. It's quite an easy concept to understand. Peak speed is the best speed at which you can download material, usually when people are least likely to be using the internet, like at midnight. At other times, when there is congestion on the net, the speed will be much lower than that. So how can you say, as a matter of course, that the speeds your system will deliver will actually, more often than not, be much more than 12? Well, defies the laws of physics.
Well, nothing whatsoever will ever be done by any coalition government.
I mean, if Tony Abbott ends up the Prime Minister of Australia, I mean, you've got to say, God help us. God help us, you know.
Now, Joe, you and Tony Abbott are presenting a united front on this, and I appreciate that. But you're both saying the same thing about what you're equating this maternal leave to. I just want to play something Tony said today.
A woman takes leave because she's having a baby. She should be paid at her wage. Just as if a bloke takes leave to go on holidays, he should be paid at his wage.
So a woman having a baby is the same as a man going on holidays, Joe? Is that right? Yeah?
Well, I no. And I think because men can't have babies, he couldn't say it just as men having babies can't do it, so he had to pick an annual leave.
There was equality in the pain of having a child, Joe. Thanks for joining us.
We all do. You know what, Carrie? I don't think men quite get there, but I can assure you we do feel the pain as the birth's going on.
All right, good to chat to you, Joe. Thanks for your time.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Good evening. First tonight, a developing story out of Canberra. Tony Abbott has been caught out seemingly insulting a Queensland soldier killed in Afghanistan. Footage shows Mr Abbott being briefed about the battle which killed Lance Corporal Jared McKinney. After being told about the complications of the firefight, this is Mr Abbott's reaction. Mr Abbott was then lost for words when confronted about his comments.
Look, a soldier has died, and you shouldn't be trying to turn this into a subsequent media circus.
The soldiers shouldn't. I shouldn't.
Yeah.
But I'm not turning into a media circus. I'm showing you vision of your reaction to his explanation about what happened on the day in the operation that, in which McKinney was killed. How's that turning into a media circus? Okay, well, tell me, what's the context? And if it's out of context, what is the context? You're not saying anything, Tony.
I've given you the response you deserve.
Well, for more on this, we're joined by Nine's political editor, Laurie Oakes. Laurie, it doesn't look good for Mr Abbott.
No, Andrew, it's very, very damaging. Not so much because of what he said about the death of the soldier. Explained in context, that's not necessarily so bad. What Mr Abbott meant, we're told, is that no matter how much equipment soldiers have, no matter what measures are taken to safeguard them, things can still go wrong. The bigger problem for Mr Abbott is the way he handled the matter when the journalists questioned him. Mr Abbott could have given the explanation that I've just given and then said he apologised if the words gave any offence to the family. But he didn't do that. To say nothing, to just glare at the reporter in silence for 24 seconds. It was ridiculous. It reveals Mr Abbott as a politician who's totally flat-footed when he gets into trouble. And now that he's exposed as a politician who bungles something this badly, you can expect some serious talk about his leadership in the Liberal Party. He keeps doing it. There was the incident last year when he declined to go to Afghanistan with Julia Gillard and gave the weak excuse that he was too jet-lagged after the flight to London. And just last week, there was the stupid refusal to disown that email about the Queensland floods, canvassing donations not to the victims but to the Liberal Party. So it's all self-inflicted, and I think that Tony Abbott will pay dearly for it.
Now, I think that the climate change science is far from settled. The fact that we've had, if anything, cooling global temperatures over the last decade, notwithstanding continued dramatic increases in carbon dioxide emissions, suggests that the role of CO2 is not nearly as clear as the climate catastrophists would suggest. I also think that if you want to put a price on carbon, why not just do it with a simple tax? Why not ask motorists to pay more? Why not ask electricity consumers to pay more? And then at the end of the year you can take your invoices to the tax office and get a rebate of the carbon tax you've paid. It would be burdensome. All taxes are burdensome, but it would certainly change the price of carbon, raise the price of carbon, without increasing in any way the overall tax burden.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are a team. Yes. We are a strong, united team, and we have had the same strong, united team for the last 3 years. We're not a one-man band, and we never will be. We never will be, because you don't get good decisions from a government if all of the decisions are simply made by one person. No one, however smart, however well educated, however experienced, is the suppository of all wisdom, and I believe that we will be a much better government because we have a very strong team.
Too about the current political landscape, because again, quoting John Howard last night on Four Corners on the profile on Tony Abbott, he said that Tony Abbott, the arrival of Tony Abbott to the Liberal leadership has altered the political landscape. Has Tony Abbott done that in your view?
Oh, well, what he did, he's consolidated the right wing. That's what he's done. All the nutters are behind him. But will he get the middle ground? I don't think so. I mean, look at the stuff on the economy. I mean, it's shocking, really. I mean, you've got, Jockey Peterson Jr. running around. What's his name? The senator from Queensland.
I think you're talking about Senator Joyce.
Joyce, yeah. He's running around making economic pronouncements which, are foolish in the extreme. Imagine this mob. Like, you wouldn't trust this mob with a jam jar full of 5-cent bits.
Why is the electorate going off the Rudd government, though? What, in your view, is the Rudd government not doing enough?
No, fashion.
All talk, no action is the crime.
Let's be clear about this. The government did a miraculous job in saving the Australian economy from the deepest recession that has come along since the Depression. The one country out of the 26 member states of the OECD that had no negative growth. I mean, the Rudd government should be re-elected on that basis alone. Getting that right was just, if they did not any other one thing in this parliament but saving us from the massive crunch which is happening in Britain and the United States now, and in Germany and France and places like Greece, to save us from that kind of holocaust, which was economic holocaust, they deserve re-election. But I think the point is this: the emergency is over now. And the Prime Minister understands this, and this is why he's on things like health. He's trying to deal with these long-term structural issues. They're hard to do. Health is a very tough thing to do.
Well, you've been in political tight places before. How do you see the upcoming election? Tony Abbott's told his troops they can win.
Oh, look, if Tony Abbott ends up the Prime Minister of Australia, you've got to say, God help us. God help us, an intellectual, truly an intellectual nobody, and no policy ambition. Is that all there is? The song, is that all there is? Is that where we'd be, really?
Paul,
I used to look. He turned up in the last couple of years when I was Prime Minister. I regard him as a sort of resident nutter on their side. Now, where is the thought-out position I mean, a Conservative Party can have a thought-out position. I mean, I saw this program last night with Malcolm Turnbull. I mean, the differences. Turnbull had an articulated, intelligent, moderate, thought-out Conservative position. The fact is that Abbott does not have this.
Can I just get your opinion on something that's in the news the last day or two? Tony Abbott suggesting that the traditional welcome to country or the acknowledgement of traditional owners is paternalistic, it's too often done. Wilson Tuckey's described it as a farce. Yeah. Just wonder if you have a view on that, given your role and obviously in introducing the Mabo legislation.
Well, we have a chance as a society in this part of the world to turn over a new leaf. We've got to stop borrowing the monarch of another country, the Queen, which Mr Abbott makes clear he's still interested in keeping. We'll soon have King Charles and Camilla at some point down the road, as absurd as that is. But how we are an immigrant country, but by the way, we're not big enough to acknowledge the fact that we did the dispossessing. You know, as I said in the Redfern speech, we did the murders. We brought the alcohol and the diseases. You know, we did these things. And goodness of heart is something, and honesty is something that is a core requirement on a good country. You know, truth is a necessary ingredient in a society with its head in the air. If you want to go around telling lies all your life, historical lies like Abbott does, fine. You know, but haven't we moved past that? I mean, do we want really little John Howard? It was bad enough having the real John Howard, you know, with all of that pre-Copernican obscurantism he had. But we want just another little John Howard. You know, at least Howard was a militant, aggressive, conservative, driving in reverse through the rearview mirror. Do we want the poor man's Howard?
Paul Keating, thank you very much for joining us on Breakfast.
Thank you.
Former Labor Prime Minister Paul Keating. It's 8:25 on RM Breakfast.